Welcome to the Church Answers podcast. My name is Tom Rayner. Jess Rayner is on vacation. I'll be glad to get him back. I like having my son here as my co-sponsor, my co-partner, my co-podcaster. We have a lot of fun together. You know, that's it's kind of a neat thing. I work with my three sons in different ways every single week. Sometimes it's just a chat for advice. Sometimes I'm getting it from them. It's not always them getting it from me. Sometimes we do things together at Church Answers. I am a member of both Sam's church and Jess's church, where they're pastors, one in Spring Hill, Tennessee, and the other one in Bradenton, Florida. And I just have so much gratitude for the opportunity to be able to engage and interact with my sons. I've said it more than one time. They're my best friends. It's kind of neat at this point in my life that my three best friends just happen to be my three sons as well. So when I talk about missing Jess, I mean it sincerely. I love having him here. He's the baby boy. He's not a baby, but he's the baby boy. And he'll always be that in my mind and heart, despite the fact that he's not a baby anymore. He just turned 40, which gives you an indication of the aged state of which I am. We are going to talk about Thomas Edison in two more episodes. If you missed the previous episodes, let me encourage you to go back and listen to them or watch them on YouTube. And I don't always mention this, but I'm going to mention it right now. Give us a rating and review on your favorite podcasting app. For many of you, it's going to be iTunes or Spotify. You may be on another one. Or if you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe to us or give us a thumbs up. Why do we ask this? It is our prayer that we can bring more people to our podcast. It's a free ministry for us. People, I'll tell you about our sponsor in a minute, that make this, where we're able to afford to provide this ministry free. But the more of you who watch it, the more we know the message is getting out, and the more we think we're doing something for the church, for the kingdom, and hopefully for you as a personal leader. So continue to just support this podcast, the Church Answers podcast. I've been delighted to watch the Rayner on Leadership podcast become the number 4 leadership podcast in the world in terms of those that leadership genre, not just Christian. And we're also seeing the Church Answers podcast continue to grow as well. I just want to get the message out. That's all there is to it. So give me a rating and review, give us a rating and review, or give us a thumbs up or subscribe on YouTube. It's free to you because we have a sponsor who pays the way. That sponsor is called Cheney and Associates. Cheney and Associates are the accounting firm for the church. They're the bookkeepers for the church. They have a podcast called the Church Advisory Podcast. There's just so much about them that is absolutely helpful for the church, helpful for your church. And look, I know that you can get a volunteer to do your books, but when those things don't go well, you really want someone who knows what they're doing. And that's Cheney Associates. I try to encourage every church leader that having the right people take care of your church's finances is not an expense. It is an investment that you'll be glad you did again and again. Go to CheneyAssociates.com/Church Answers. Set up an appointment with them. Ask them about their services. Tell them that Tom and Jess sent you, and watch what they can do for your church and your church finances. So we began this path of talking about Thomas Edison, kind of a strange podcast for a church leadership podcast, but we started talking about his growth mindset and how I just frankly mentioned how I wish more pastors had that type of growth mindset. I wish more church leaders had that type of growth mindset. And so in the first episode, we talked about the growth mindset of leaders. Second episode, we talked about failures. How Edison actually got excited about failures because for him, failures were not failing. Failures were pointing to the next step. It eliminated that choice and he was able to go on to the next one. So for him, again, I've said this so much, and every time I say it, I realize how cliche it is. Failure is not final. That could have been Edison's motto as well. Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb, of motion pictures, of the phonograph, of so many things, almost 1,100 patents to his name in the United States, over 1,500 worldwide. We need to study him more. We need not just for his inventions and not just for his businesses. By the way, he founded a lot of business, including one called General Electric, which for many years was the largest company in the world. So we can focus on some of the negatives about him. He did neglect his family while he was working on his experiments. He did probably go overboard on some of his risks, but they tended to come back and be a blessing to him. There are many things that you can always fault someone on, but I wanted to look at the positives of his leadership and what we can learn from it. So let's go into this lesson of managed chaos. That sounds like an oxymoron, doesn't it? Manage chaos. Well, chaos means something that is just going almost in unpredictable ways. Manage means you're trying to control it. So, what is manage chaos? It means within certain parameters, you are happy to see things just seem like they're chaos, going in a bunch of different directions. You're willing to see a lot of people trying a lot of different things, but it's managed in the sense that it's not without boundaries. It has boundaries. And so he loved managed chaos. In fact, he would have it lived out at Menlo Park, he was I guess the first person ever to have an innovation lab. I mean, who would have even thought about that? Today it just says, oh, it's an innovation lab. Nobody had ever heard of it till Edison came along. And he had a house right next to his innovation lab. Unfortunately, that's where he slept many times and didn't go home to his wife and children. That's another story. But Edison just had this whole idea that if we have a lot of things going, something's going to work. Now, we have different ways of making that into a metaphor like throwing a lot up at the wall and see what sticks. That's one of those metaphors. And that's not really bad. I know I have frustrated many people who've been under my leadership because I can seem to have 1,000 things going at one time and I want to pull myself back. But you know what? It's when I've had that chaos within boundaries going that we've had some of our best and biggest discoveries in roles that I've had as a pastor, as a dean of a seminary, as a president of Lifeway, as the founder of Church Answers, and in other roles too. Some of the greatest things came out of that managed chaos. I want to give you one example. I had a research team when I was at Southern Seminary. And I actually have their pictures and their names in a book called The Unchurched Next Door. Incredible research team of men and women. And they interview people all over the United States. And I expected one particular result. I expected to find out why these unchurched people did not like churches. Because they weren't in church. I mean, we only interviewed unchurched. Guess what we found is we sent people out in multiple directions. It felt like chaos, but it was managed because we had parameters. We found out that could not be further from the truth. Only 5% were antagonistic to the gospel and to church. It changed my whole paradigmatic approach to reaching people, where I went with the mindset that most people are receptive and not antagonistic. And I was able to share that with churches across the world. And I think it's made an impact in many churches in many places. So manage chaos. Just think of throwing a bunch of ideas up against the wall, using that metaphor, and seeing which one sticks. Another is rapid iteration. If you go back and listen to my previous podcast on failures, How Failures Succeed was the name of it. I talked about how many times, possibly as many as 100,000 times, Edison failed at something. But that 100,000 times would end up being a success 1% of the time, or about roughly 1,000, at least according to the number of patents. Now, how did he do 100,000 different attempts at something? He was rapid fire. Try it, stop. Try it, move to the next one. Try it. And many times he hired an entire research team. He didn't have that at the beginning of his career, obviously, but he hired an entire research team and he had them going in multiple directions. And when they got down as far as he thought that they could go, he would say, next, and they would move to the next one. Rapid iteration. I don't know how we exactly apply that in leadership, but I guess it means we never pause sharing the gospel. I guess it means that we never pause in ministry. We may do ministry at a different pace, but we don't stop doing ministry. And that's what Edison was. I mean, he just tried one thing after another. I, maybe as you've heard my excitement in this, you're beginning to understand why I see him as such a great leader. Some of these concepts that we take for granted today were originated by Edison. And this idea of trying one thing after another, more than any person I've known, in at least in recent history, that was unique to Thomas Edison. Well, one of the unique ministries that are in church life today is Upward. Upward sports ministry that has been around for about a half a century. But boy, are they breaking new ground now. I mean, I'm looking at all the sports that they offer, just some of them, like cheerleading, like flag football, like softball, like basketball, like running, like pickleball. And let me just talk about Upward Running for just a moment. Upward Running is maybe the easiest entree for a church to get into its community with sports. All you need is one dedicated church member who's ready to take it on, because your church is going to sponsor a 5K, and all of the organizational material, everything you need, is going to be supplied by Upward, and they are going to point you in the right direction, and you're going to reach your community with the gospel. If you don't believe me, go talk to them. They've got an incredible ministry that is on the cutting edge, even though they've been around for quite a while. And you can find them at upward.org/runcoach. Once again, that's upward.org/runcoach. We're talking about Thomas Edison, the great inventor for sure, the phonograph, the light bulb, the inventions that changed lives, the companies like General Electric and others that were just incredible companies. Now, he was stubborn. I could get into this whole thing about alternating current versus direct current, where he refused to make change because his stubborn pride told him not to, and it hurt him overall. That's another story into itself. But Thomas Edison was someone that again and again said, you know what? Chaos is okay as long as we have defined the boundaries in which we will let that chaos exist. And that created this creative environment that was present in his lab and in other places. It created the rapid iteration where if something failed, they would move to something quickly. If something succeeded, they would move to the next level of that quickly. Rapid iteration. Well, there's another thing we want to add to this on managed crisis. He gave us the idea of flexible thinking. Gosh, in the years that would follow, we would hear about changing paradigms. And that's just so cliche and bland now. We don't think anything about it. Well, paradigmatic change was not even thought of in Thomas Edison's day until he started talking about flexible thinking. All humans have a way that we think, a pattern that we think. And we can force ourselves to get away from that pattern, to think about other things. We can force ourselves to move forward in a way where we are not doing the same thing the same way because we are thinking differently. Steve Jobs was famous to think different. He didn't use that verb. He said think different. And even way before Jobs, Thomas Edison was all about flexible thinking. You don't always have to do it the way that you've always done it. Let's think about if this box that we're in did not exist. That's where we get the phrase thinking outside the box. This box that we're in did not exist. What would it look like? How would we think differently? Many times we want to use where we are as our understanding of where we need to go next. Well, blank slate thinking is not easy, because most of the time we're going to go back to what we're familiar with what we're comfortable with, the way that we've done it in the past, the way that we did it yesterday. Thomas Edison introduced us, to a new degree anyway, to flexible thinking. Obviously, he had flexible thinking. Almost 1,100 patents. Inventor of the phonograph, the light bulb, the motion picture machine. All of these things were a part of his world and his life. flexible thinking came from this managed chaos. Finally, as we think about his managed chaos, not only did he have, number one, a creative environment, not only did he have, number two, rapid iteration, so you could go from one to the next, not only did he allow for flexible thinking, he encouraged it, but the fourth thing I just want to bring to our attention in this area of managed chaos is he had parallel projects going. Many leaders say we got too many things going at once. I guess that can be true. And I guess you can have so many things, you're not doing any one thing well. But quite frankly, if we have some great ideas, it is possible to have many things going at once. Thomas Edison taught us that parallel projects can be a good thing. They don't have to be conflicting. Many people say we only have so many resources to do so many things. He taught that, hey, we have a lot more resources than we think we have. We are able to do more than we think we do. We tend to imply self-limitation and say, oh, we can't do all these things at one time. I don't want to suggest that this type of chaos with so many things that it burned out people, that it did not allow for focus. But I will say this, most leaders don't do enough things, at least different things. And if we could eliminate one of our things, using that word rather loosely, that we do the same way we've always done it and introduce something new into it, maybe we wouldn't have to lower our capacity. We would just do the same amount of time and do something differently. So Thomas Edison, his leadership mind was absolutely incredible. It's hard to imagine someone that had so many ideas in his mind that was virtually leaking out of his ears. He just had one idea after another. He taught us many things. He taught us that failure is not final. He taught us how to have a growth mindset. And he taught us that managed chaos is okay. He didn't say chaos is okay, but he said that managed chaos is okay. And it is in that light that we learn from this man who made such a profound difference, whose inventions we still use today, even though we have improved them. We still use them today. So we're going to continue to learn about this man named Thomas Edison. We're going to continue to get leadership lessons from him. And we're going to put our focus on an area that I just mentioned in passing in a previous podcast, persistence. But we're going to find out how he took selected persistence and used it to grow his companies, to create new ideas, to be able to focus on many things at one time, but not everything at one time. We're going to look at the powerful lesson of selected persistence in the next episode. Keep this in mind. This is the third of a 4-part podcast series, 2 last week, 2 this week. Leadership lessons from Thomas Edison. Somebody that we study for different reasons, like the experiments he created, for the patents he had, for the great ideas that emanated from that mind. But now let's start focusing on leadership and figure out what we can learn from him. So stay tuned for the next podcast where we'll come back to the powerful lesson of selected persistence. So thank you, Cheney and Associates. Thank you for your incredible podcast, the Church Advisory Podcast. Thank you for providing us the financial tools and for loving the church the way that you love the church, for serving over 1,100 churches, for being that creative thinker in the world of bookkeeping and accounting, for saving churches from many mistakes where I've heard it again and again. I'm so glad I had Cheney doing our finances, because we would have been in a lot of trouble without them. Give them a call. Go to CheneyAssociates.com/churchanswers. Set up an appointment with them. Let them know that you want to learn about their bookkeeping services, their accounting services. They are the accounting firm for the church. So I have thoroughly enjoyed these 3 podcasts on Thomas Edison on leadership. I hope you have as well. Just because I'm talking about them doesn't mean it's good for you, but I hope that you've enjoyed them as well. And we're going to wrap this up in the next episode, which we've already released by the time you are listening or viewing this one, on the powerful lesson of selected persistence. We've already said that Thomas Edison was a persistent man. Now we're going to put an adjective in front of it, selected persistence, and we're going to see what lessons we can learn from him. As always, give us a rating and review at your favorite podcasting app. Most of you are probably at iTunes or some at Spotify, but wherever you are, give us a rating and review. And if you're watching us on YouTube, small but growing group that is, give us a thumbs up or maybe even subscribe to our channel. As always, we thank you for being a part of the Church Answers family. We thank you for being a part of Church Answers podcast. And I will see you in the fourth and final episode of Thomas Edison on Leadership. I'll see you then.